Just changing subjects for 1 second. The administration has expressed a complete confidence in how all the deportation flights to El Salvador were conducted. But now that the administration has conceded that there was an error of one Salvadoran national, will there be any reviews conducted? And does the president express any thoughts on the one error that was disclosed in court last night?
Well, first of all, the error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang. That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking. And fact number three, this individual was a member, actually a leader of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization.
Rerun. MS-13's coming back now. Damn.
Good afternoon. How are we?
Great.
Good. Good to see you all. I want to start today by addressing the U.S. Army soldiers who went missing while conducting a mission to repair and tow an immobilized tactical vehicle in Lithuania in the early hours of March 25th. Tragically, 3 soldiers were found deceased in Lithuania yesterday.
El Salvador dictator, let me know, Destiny, don't talk about South America. You're out of your field. I was just repeating what the chatter said. Okay, I don't have any idea if he's a dictator or not. I have no opinion on that. Don't know anything about it. But see you later.
Yesterday. And it pains me to confirm that today, the 4th soldier was also found deceased.
Rip.
The President, the Secretary of Defense, and the entire White House are praying for the victims' friends and family during this unimaginable time. This is another stark reminder of the selfless sacrifice of our brave military men and women who risk their lives around the world every day to keep us safe. God bless them. On another note, at our southern border, there is more massive news. Southwest border crossings in March fell to the lowest level in American history, down 94% from March.
This number that they keep repeating is a lie. They're comparing the 7-day average, and they're trying to say that that 7-day, unless it's a new number that they've got, but the last time they did this, they were just taking a 7-day average, and they were claiming that that 7-day average was the total number of people that had crossed in a week. Also, anytime somebody gives you a stat for the over the course of a week, it's always a fucking lie. But wait, maybe this is a different number. Hold on.
To the lowest border, there is more. Keep us safe. God bless them. On another note, at our southern border, there is more massive news. Southwest border crossings in March fell to the lowest level in American history.
Oh, okay. At least they are doing all of March now instead of they're doing all of March now instead of 1 week. Okay, so maybe they have an updated number.
Down 94% from March of last year under President Biden, when 137,000 illegal aliens poured across our wide-open southern border. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, Border Patrol agents are now back to doing the jobs they signed up for, securing the border, rather than serving as travel agents for illegal aliens.
Based.
The Los Angeles Times captured the Trump effect on the border with a recent article. Their headline read, "California-Mexico border, once overwhelmed, is now nearly empty." With so few migrants coming into the U.S., they wrote, "Shelters that once served migrants have completely closed." Deportations of illegal aliens who threaten the safety of the American people are also continuing at a rapid pace. Over the weekend, the United States military transferred a group of 17 violent criminals from the Tren de Aragua and MS-13 terrorist organizations to El Salvador. And an illegal alien who was released by the Biden administration into our country was just arrested in Georgia and charged with the horrific killing of Camelia Williams, a mother of 5 and grandmother. The suspect has now been indicted on charges of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, rape, aggravated sexual battery, and necrophilia, which for those who don't know, necrophilia is a sexual obsession with a corpse. This suspect was ordered to be removed in July 2023, but the Biden administration allowed him to stay. This case represents the ruthless murderers, rapists, and pedophiles who Joe Biden and Democrats let into our country over the past 4 years through our southern border. They should have never been here in the first place. Keep this in mind the next time you see Democrats protesting future illegal alien removals from our country.
Yes, ma'am.
President Trump is focused on fulfilling his greatest obligation to keep the American people safe and to defend our country from violent invaders. Looking ahead to tomorrow, April 2nd, 2025, will go down as one of the most important days in modern American history. Our country has been one of the most open economies in the world, and we have the consumer base hands down, the best consumer base. But too many foreign countries have their
Taking
markets
advantage of
closed
us.
to our exports.
Oh no.
This is fundamentally unfair. The lack of reciprocity contributes to our large and persistent annual trade deficit that's gutted our industries and hollowed out key workforces. But those days of America, beginning tomorrow, being ripped off are over. American workers and businesses will be put first under President Trump, just as he promised on the campaign trail. The president's historic action tomorrow will improve American competitiveness in every area of industry, reduce our massive trade deficits, and ultimately protect our economic and national security. President Trump's economic vision is rooted in common sense.
Common sense?
America will offer companies the lowest taxes, energy costs, regulations, if they make their products right here in the United States and hire American workers for the job. It's simple. If you make your product in America, you will pay no tariffs. We have already seen a number of the largest companies in the world respond to this economic approach. For example, Project Stargate, led by Japan-based SoftBank and US-based OpenAI, and Oracle, announced a $500 billion private investment in the United States-based artificial intelligence infrastructure.
Wow.
Apple announced a $500 billion investment in U.S. manufacturing and training.
Wow.
NVIDIA announced it will invest hundreds of billions of dollars over the next 4 years in U.S.-based manufacturing.
Wow.
And the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company, TSMC, announced a $100 billion investment in U.S.-based chips
Wow.
and manufacturing.
I thought we were going to
These
get
are just
Doritos.
a few of the investment announcements that have already been made, and it is clear that President Trump's America First approach is already working. In our new media seat today is Mark Halperin, the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Two Way, a new live video platform that builds communities around interactive conversations with leaders and content creators from every subject area. Mark and his colleagues welcome all voices into discussions that are spirited but respectful. They have over 37.5 million video views, over 3.6 million watch time hours since the platform began just last year. This is new media in its truest sense, allowing the people to ask questions, make comments, and be an active part of engagement on the most important issues facing the country and our world.
Okay.
With that, Mark, please kick us off, and welcome to the briefing room.
Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate it. I'll ask you a question about tariffs and then one from one members of our community
Sure.
about education. It's perceived by some that companies or countries, if they change their policies either before tomorrow or after tomorrow, can have the president alter what he's planning for that country or that sector. Is that a possibility? And if so, what factors the president consider in making those changes?
Well, the ultimate change for these companies and these countries, Mark, will happen when they decide to do business in the United States of America. And as I just laid out, they will face no tariffs at all if these companies choose to invest here in the United States and to move their production and their manufacturing here to the United States as well. As for tomorrow, the president will be addressing the decades of unfair trade practices that have ripped our country off and American workers off. It has hollowed out our middle class. It has destroyed our heartland, and the president is focused on reshifting our global economy to ensure that America is once again the
Great overlays F6. Have you seen the Elon lawsuit? No, what is the Elon lawsuit?
manufacturing superpower of the world.
So if they do something today or later in the week that's a pledge for future activity, would that be good enough potentially to alter the policy?
Again, the president has been looking at the very unfair trade practices of the past. Certainly, the president is always up to take a phone call, always up for a good negotiation.
Anybody want to do a phone call? Anybody want to do a phone call? Anybody want to talk on the phone? Anybody want to have a phone call with me? I want to have a phone call. The phone call president. LOL. Huh?
Certainly, the president is always up to take a phone call, always up for a good negotiation, but he is very much focused on fixing the wrongs of the past and ensuring that American workers have a fair shake.
So
I'm the
if
guy
someone
who
calls after
phone
tomorrow and
calls.
says, hey, I'm ready to make a change, he'd be open to that.
The president is always open to taking calls.
Okay. A question from one of our community members,
Supreme
Katie
Court,
Rodriguez,
Elon Musk, Trump
is a
thing.
school
Okay.
teacher in Wisconsin. She's taught K through 8 in public, independent, private, and private schools. And here's what she wanted me to ask you. She says, I see the elimination of the Department of Education as an excellent first step in the improvement of our school system. Do you see any further role the federal government can take beyond this possibly in promoting the expansion of voucher programs or reducing the influence that teachers' unions hold over our schools.
Fucking teachers unions.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Katie for her service to our country and
Thank
our
you,
nation's
Katie.
children. Being a teacher is the most noble profession that we believe one can have.
True
And the
and
president
based.
said in his remarks when he signed the executive order to dismantle the Department of Education that he loves our teachers. And in part, this order is to empower our teachers to have greater decision making in the classroom. Nobody knows our nation's children and our students better than our teachers who are with them
True.
every single day. As for the federal government's role, to get to the heart of Katie's question, the president has made it clear to Linda McMahon that we need to find other places within our federal government for critical programs regarding education. Pell Grants, Title IX, lawsuits, etc., civil rights lawsuits, all of that are critical functions, special needs programs, nutrition programs, but there are other places throughout the federal bureaucracy where those things can happen and work. The Department of Education has been a very bloated bureaucracy. We spent trillions of dollars on this department, and for what? Our children are worse off as far as education goes today than they were.
It's so funny. They're saying like we spend trillions of dollars. Most of this is probably in regards to like student loans and whatnot, I imagine, right? But they shuffled all of that to the SBA anyway, so it's not like, are they even going to end up saving any fucking money? I don't know.
When this department originated, and that's very concerning to the president. So.
The two issues she cited are those priorities for the president: school education choice, vouchers, and diminishing the role of teachers' unions.
My president is very supportive of both of those things, particularly when it comes to school choice. He has said that school choice is the civil rights issue of our time, and he wants every child, regardless of zip code, socioeconomic status, how much money their parents have, to be able to go to the school of their choosing that best suits their educational needs. And he is going to empower state and local leaders to make those decisions on behalf of our nation's children.
Thank you, God Emperor
Thanks for
Trump.
being here, Mark. Jeff.
Just changing subjects for 1 second. The administration has expressed a complete confidence in how all the deportation flights to El Salvador were conducted. But now that the administration has
You guys are obsessed
conceded that there was an error
with these
of one
deportation
Salvadoran
things.
national, will there be any reviews conducted? And does the president express any thoughts on the one error that was disclosed in last night?
Well, first of all, the error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang. That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking. And fact number three, this individual was a member, actually a leader of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Fact number four is that foreign terrorists do not have legal protections in the United States of America anymore, and it is within the president's executive authority and power to deport these heinous individuals from American communities. It is a promise he campaigned on. It is a promise he is keeping. And every single person in this room should be grateful for that, considering especially MS-13 is very prevalent and prominent here in the District of Columbia, in Maryland, and in Virginia. And the president, the attorney general, everyone who has been involved in these operations is focused on eradicating these criminals and terrorists from our communities.
The vice president said he was a convicted member of MS-13. What evidence is there to back that up?
There's a lot of evidence, and the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have that evidence, and I
Got
saw it this
him.
morning.
Oh,
Steve.
she
Has
saw
the
it.
president fully made up his mind on
He wasn't
the
ready for that
level
one.
of tariffs to impose tomorrow? We keep hearing about a 20% flat rate.
The president said last night he has made a decision and a determination. I was with him in
She
the
literally saw it. How are you going to debate her when she actually saw the evidence with her own two eyes?
Oval Office earlier, and he is going to announce that decision tomorrow. I don't want to get ahead of the president. This is obviously a very big day. He is with his trade and tariff team right now, perfecting it to make sure this is a perfect deal for the American people and the American worker, and you will all find out in about 24 hours from now.
And are the car tariffs going to go into effect on April 3rd as scheduled?
Correct. Yes, they will.
Okay. And last thing, would you like to respond
Wait,
to
the car tariffs go into effect on April 3rd? Why are we like staggering the tariffs? The fuck?
of the Chinese military drills around Taiwan.
Yes, I would. As a matter of fact, the National Security Council briefed me on this morning, and they said that the president is emphasizing the importance of maintaining peace in the Taiwan Strait, encouraging the peaceful resolution of these cross-strait issues, reiterating our opposition
Well, as
to
long as he's
any unilateral
encouraging.
attempts to change the status quo by force or coercion. That is directly from the National Security Advisor. Just for you, Steve Holland of Reuters. Monica.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Elon Musk
Can't go
this
through
week
lava?
revealed that Doge found that the Biden administration issued over 2 million social security numbers to illegal aliens, found 20 million dead people marked as alive in the social security system.
Wow.
Has the White House confirmed these numbers with Elon, and is the White House looking into correcting them?
Are you saying Elon lied?
I'm not sure about those specific numbers that Mr. Musk cited. I can tell you what the Social Security Administration has said themselves, according to an Inspector General's report that was conducted last year, showing there was nearly $80 billion worth of fraud in this program. We know for a fact there are individuals who should.
If that's the same Inspector's General report that we read, that is not true. I don't believe it was $80 million in fraud. I think it was $80 billion in incorrect payments, of which either 40% or 60% was recovered. But I don't believe that said $80 billion in fraud.
Not be receiving benefits on the Social Security rolls. And this administration is focused on cleaning out the waste, fraud, and abuse in every agency, but particularly in Social Security, to make it stronger for our tax-paying, law-abiding citizens who deserve these entitlements and programs. Because you did bring up Doge, I do want to tout the incredible...
They actually parody just repeat talking points and read a script like a robot. That's all this administration is. It's just flood, 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 with the same misinformation propaganda over and over and over again until, yeah, it's too much to keep up with. There's so much to keep up with. I thought about last night. I was thinking about I wonder if it'd be good to write out what are the big things per month? Oh, because somebody in chat even suggests to keep track of. But I don't even know. It's just so much. It's just so much.
Deserve these entitlements and programs. Because you did bring up Doge, I do want to tout the incredible efforts that have been made at the Environmental Protection Agency. And Administrator Lee Zeldin is just doing a tremendous job. Just yesterday and today it will be going into effect. He announced that taxpayers will be saved $8 million in annual lease costs by moving staff out of the 323,000 square feet of space that the EPA currently occupies, which is completely unnecessary. Yesterday, Administrator Zeldin also announced he will be shutting down a museum that the Biden administration built to tell a selective story about the EPA's history and climate change. It was a real pat on the back to President Biden. And guess how much American taxpayers paid for it? $4 million for this museum that I think only 1,000 visitors saw last year alone. And it will cost American taxpayers $600,000 per year to operate this museum.
$600,000?
Well, it's not going to exist anymore. We're going to save taxpayers those critical funds.
What are the chances that we start shutting down national parks?
And Administrator Zeldin is very proud to announce that. And just at EPA alone, and the cuts that they have made, they've saved taxpayers more than $22 billion in wasteful grants and spending. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. When the president goes down to Florida on the weekends, does he ever hear from, there are so many retired folks down in Florida, does he ever hear from any retired Americans who are stressed about these wild swings in the stock market because of the tariff uncertainty, and they're sitting there on fixed income or living off a 401k, and they don't know how much money's going to be left?
Well, certainly they are legitimate concerns, and the president takes those concerns very seriously.
Now, let me tell you what we're not going to do fuck all about it.
Every single day. And tomorrow's announcement is to protect future generations of the senior citizens you mentioned. It's for their kids and their grandkids to ensure that there are jobs here in the United States of America for their children to live the American dream, just like they presumably did. And as for their worries about their 401ks, their Social Security, I just addressed Social Security. This president is...
Please check out Gary's Economics. He is your ally. Join forces. There is nobody. I cannot believe that I have fans that watch me and Gary's Economics. Please stop saying this. It's making me question everything I do online, that I could appeal to people that would think that dude is not a fucking blatant scammer. Okay? Please stop.
always going to protect it for our tax-paying senior citizens. As for their 401ks, look at what President Trump did for you in his first term. He is working on implementing that economic formula every single day by lowering inflation, lowering energy prices, massive deregulatory efforts, while simultaneously effectively implementing tariffs. And they'll hear more about that announcement tomorrow.
And you said that the president right now is with the trade and tariff team. They are very confident that this is all going to work. But what if
Yes.
they're wrong?
They're not going to be wrong. It is going to
Oh.
work. And the president has a brilliant team of advisors who have been studying these issues for decades. We are focused on restoring the golden age of America and making America a manufacturing superpower.
Wait,
And
real quick. Should I create a whole bunch of these big mining drills to bring back home to novice? I should, right? I should be probably using these everywhere. Okay.
again, Peter, I would point you to the investments that have already trickled into this country. And the president hasn't even made his tariff announcement yet tomorrow. There have been billions of dollars in private investments from around the world
Billions,
pouring into American communities. What does that look like for those watching at home, for the people you mentioned, worried about their own economic circumstances? It means more jobs in your communities, which means more money, more investments, more money in your pocket. That's what the president is committed to. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the president's commitment to tax cuts, which we are counting on Congress to do,
thank
especially
God.
on Social Security.
I do support
And
those.
one more.
Sure.
Are the special elections
Help me,
today
Trump.
a referendum on the president?
No.
I think
Who cares?
first of all, you know, I'm a government employee now, so I'm not very much allowed to comment on elections that are taking place. That's something to get.
First of all, I didn't even know that was a rule, number one. Secondly, since when the fuck have you guys ever cared about any rules like that ever? What?
Used to, having just been on the campaign trail for quite some time. But the president is the leader of the America First movement and the MAGA movement. And that was made very clear on November the 5th when he received nearly 80 million votes. I could
Popular
also
mandate.
say that it is the constitutional right of every law-abiding American in these places where these elections are being.
Let me use the restroom real quick. Hold on.
held to vote, and every American should exercise their constitutional rights. Sure.
Thanks, Carolyn. A few questions about this deportation case. First, I wanted to clarify something that you said to Jeff a few minutes ago. You said you'd seen evidence that this man was a convicted gang member. In what court was he convicted and for what?
This individual was an S-13 ringleader. This individual was also engaged in human trafficking.
He wasn't. He wasn't. That's what she means to say. Oh, convicted in court? When you say convicted, what do you mean by in court? Wait, what? Next question.
And I'm glad you brought up this point again, because I would like to point out that if you just saw the headline from the insane, failing Atlantic magazine this morning, you would think.
Guys, how do conservatives feel? They have to feel weird. Like, it's so blatantly fashy when it's like they refer to news media publications that they don't like as like the insane failing Atlantic, but like, bro, can you just like say the name of the publication? Are you okay?
Think this individual was Father of the Year, living in Maryland, living a peaceful life, when that couldn't be further from the truth. They didn't even mention in the title of that article or even in the first paragraph that this individual is an illegal criminal who broke our nation's immigration laws. He is a leader in the brutal MS-13 gang, and he is...
Where convicted where then? Just say where. Convicted where? Criminal conviction, United States. Where?
involved in human trafficking, and now MS-13 is a designated foreign terrorist organization. Foreign terrorists have no legal protections in the United States of America, and this administration is going to continue to deport...
Really? We can rape and torture them? Is that true? If I find a terrorist, I can rape and torture the terrorist, and the Trump admin will come out and say, oh, well, FTO, foreign terrorist designation. That's a foreign terrorist. He has no rights in here, actually. So cruel and unusual punishment, infinite detention and detainment, no due process. Yeah, you can do whatever you want to. Oh, okay. Thanks for that.
Deport foreign terrorists and illegal criminals from our nation's interior.
But a judge ordered that he should remain in this country. So are you saying that it is okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge for?
He's an immigration
It was an
judge.
immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi, who has committed to eradicating MS-13.
I misheard this. I'm so sorry. Hold on.
Okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge for?
He's an immigration
It was an
judge.
immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi.
Okay, at the risk of, because I don't know the whole immigration process, are there certain judges that work for the Attorney General? Is that true? Or is she just completely and totally misunderstanding? And did she just combine two branches of government? Do immigration judges work for the Attorney General? If that was the case, then why do we even need the judge? Why can't we just say, why doesn't the Attorney General just whatever they say goes? What?
Who has committed to eradicating MS-13 from our nation's interior. And let me tell you why we've made this commitment. MS-13, may I remind each and every one of you, is a brutal and vicious gang. They raped and strangled a 20-year-old autistic woman to death in Maryland. They hacked 4 people to death with machetes in a park on Long Island. They have kidnapped, sexually tortured, and shot a teenage girl in Texas after she insulted them.
Okay, so for immigration judges, okay, so it is different for immigration stuff. An immigration judge, formerly known as a special inquiry officer, is an employee of the United States Department of Justice. An immigration judge decides cases of aliens and various types of removal proceedings. During the proceedings, an immigration judge may grant any type of immigration relief. Okay, an immigration judge is appointed by and works under the direction of the U.S. Attorney General. In other words, under the Immigration and Nationality Act, immigration judges act as representatives of the Attorney General and can only act according to authority delegated by the Attorney General, such as under the regulations or by the INA. I wonder what that process is like. It seems weird that the prosecutor could choose the judge, but maybe this has to do specifically with because of the Immigration and Nationality Act, how that works.
Allegedly killed and mutilated a 17-year-old girl in Virginia, stabbing him 16 times and cutting off his hands. They beheaded and cut out the heart of a man in Washington, D.C. They raped and murdered a 13-year-old girl in California. They sex trafficked a slew of young girls, including one who was just 12 years old. Raped an 11-year-old girl in Brooklyn while her brother was in the room. Sex trafficked a 13-year-old in Maryland and Virginia, miles away from this White House, even beating her 26 times on her backside with a baseball bat. Pressured.
If Gary's economics is a scammer, what is he wrong about? He's wrong about literally everything. His master's thesis is stupid. Every time he talks about economics, his understanding is simplistic at best, if not outright misleading and dumb. He never gives any good prescriptions on how to change or help anything. All he does is tell you to buy his book over and over again. He's a scammer. And he lied about his entire work history.
To homeless New Yorkers to undergo unnecessary surgeries such as spinal fusion in order to bolster their fraudulent lawsuits. These are vicious criminals. This is a vicious gang. And I wish that the media would spend just a second of the same time you have spent trying to litigate each and every individual of this gang who has been deported from our country as the innocent Americans whose lives have been lost at the hands of these brutal criminals. We maintain our position, and very strongly so. Jennifer.
One more on the tariffs. Can you say what the latest thinking is on the start date? I know you were just in the Oval. Are they all going to take effect this week?
I love how they say, like, you were in the Oval instead of the Oval Office. I feel like that slang is just so fucking cool. It's so cool and based. Their lingo.
reciprocal tariffs, and whenever they start, is that enough time for companies and everyone involved to adjust to that start date?
My understanding is that the tariff announcement will come tomorrow. They will be effective immediately. And the president has been teasing this for quite some time, as you know. He's talked a lot about April 2nd as Liberation Day in America. It would be taking place today if not for April Fool's Day. But tomorrow will be the day, and he's been talking about it for a while. And as a result, you've seen these companies make commitments to investing right here in the United States. Jasmine.
Thank you so much. I wonder, back on tariffs.
It's so goofy.
If any market
And
indicators is the White House looking for to see if this tariffs plan is successful down the line?
Well, look, the president has been asked and answered this question about the stock market and whether he's watching it. And I've said, and he has said, the market is a snapshot in time. Yesterday, Dow futures were up. And there's been a lot of talk about the market, and it was up yesterday. So, look, the president wants to ensure that all Americans make out well, particularly Main Street. That's the focus of these tariffs. But as I've said repeatedly, just like they were in his first term, Wall Street will be just fine. Shelby.
Thanks. A bipartisan pair of senators sent a letter to the president today arguing that the recent strikes in Yemen are emboldening the Houthis and saying that Congress has not authorized war against them. Is the administration planning to consult with Congress at some point or going forward?
Well, who's Congress? What's that? Bruh. We just have a president now. Please remind this lady that Trump has a goddamn popular mandate. A mandate from the people? Please remind her.
Regarding the strikes and any response on the letter?
Well, I would absolutely reject Congress's claims. Who made those claims in Congress?
Senator Jeff Merkley and Rand Paul.
Okay, well, I would absolutely reject those
Rhinos.
claims. These Houthi strikes have been incredibly successful. Last time I was at this podium, there were more than 100 successful strikes. There have now been over 200 successful strikes against the Houthis. Iran is incredibly weakened as a result of these attacks, and we have seen they've taken out Houthi leaders. They've taken out critical members who were launching strikes on naval ships and on commercial vessels, and this operation will not stop until the freedom of navigation in this region is restored, which is a critical principle, and this president stands behind our Defense Department, who's doing a tremendous job.
And are they going to, is the White House going to confer with Congress going forward on this?
I would have to ask our team here at the White House, but the president is well within his authority, as is the Secretary of Defense. Again, these are defensive strikes. The Houthis have been launching attacks on U.S. naval vessels and commercial.
These are defensive strikes. Holy shit. Not only are we giving all of our money to Israel, now we're taking foreign policy tips from them. I'm just kidding. Video games.
Ships for quite some time. Go ahead.
Caroline,
Yeah.
the pause on the Canadian and Mexican tariffs, the fentanyl tariffs, that's set to expire tomorrow. Is the president considering extending that pause?
Look, I will let the president speak on the specifics of the tariffs tomorrow. But as for fentanyl, we have seen this has certainly caused a national security crisis here in the United States. Fentanyl continues to be the #1 killer of young people in this country, and the president is very much focused on that. Deanna.
Thank you, Caroline. The president recently signed an executive order on making D.C. safe and beautiful. On the campaign trail, he talked about making New York great again.
Oh, also, real quick. Am I going to want to do Foundry stuff in terms of like cooking material on Novice, or because I don't have access to lava there?
Does he have any plans on establishing a similar task force? Has he been pressuring Governor Hochul in any way in his conversations?
Oh, and then also real quick. One thing that I think is kind of weird about Trump drone striking Yemen is I feel like if you were just a good negotiator, I feel like you wouldn't even have to drone strike the Houthis. Like if you just I feel like if you just had like a good conversation with them, I feel like they'd stop. Like if you just had a good talk.
War and foreign expansion.
That's right.
What is that?
I think it's just a failed mentality. It's crazy. You can solve problems over a telephone. Instead, they start dropping bombs. I see recently they're dropping bombs all over Yemen. You don't have to do that. You can talk in such a way where they respect you and they listen to you. Viktor Orban of Hungary, you know, the leader, they call him a strong man. Who cares if he's a strong man or not a strong man? He's a very powerful guy.
Yeah, we just have to call him, right? To be fair, this is a long time ago. This was like 10 months ago.
About New York and lowering crime.
Well, he has been in correspondence with Governor Hochul quite a bit on the issue of crime, also on the issue of congestion pricing, and so many other issues that are facing New Yorkers. And he wants New York to clean up their streets just as he does here in Washington, D.C. He also speaks to Mayor Adams as well. So he's engaged with state and local leaders across the entire country to ensure they're doing their part to help American citizens in each and every state, regardless of if it's a red state or a blue state.
A question on Russia. Yesterday, the Russian government said that their new goal is 160,000 conscripts for the war. Has the president seen that number, and does he have any response given his recent conversations on peace talks?
Well, I can tell you what the president said last night, and that is he is frustrated with leaders on both sides of this war. He wants this war to end. There are men that are dying.
Day one, remember. This war was supposed to end day one in office. Day one. What happened? We were supposed to see a day one. Day one. One, as in the first day in office. This war was supposed to end day one, the very first day. What happened?
On both sides, and it's been going on for far too long. Our team continues to be engaged with the Russians as we.
The religious guy from Jubilee didn't get your DM. He wants you to DM him again. I DM'd him. We're DMing. I might debate him. We'll see. He wants me to try to set up a He wants me to set up like a full event, like in real life. To do a fucking religion debate. I don't know. We'll see.
We are with the Ukrainians, and the president continues to be very, very much engaged on this topic every single day.
Caroline.
Sure.
Caroline,
Sure.
The president said over the weekend that he couldn't care less if prices went up on foreign cars because people.
Sorry. You are right. I am lying. He didn't say it would end on day one. He said before he even got into office, it would end. My bad.
I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly. Quickly. I will get the problem solved, and I will get it solved in rapid order, and it will take me no longer than one day. I know exactly what to say to each of them. I got along very well with.
Buy more American cars. There's been consensus from a lot of economists.
How do you think Trump supporters reconcile Trump's day one statements? I don't know. We got to talk to some at some point. I mean, maybe I need to start doing Twitter spaces again or something. Are there any left-right debates happening anywhere? Like, are any conservatives debating right now? Anybody?
That these tariffs could raise prices on other goods as well. Is the president comfortable with Americans on Main Street?
I think Dean was doing live debates on. Oh, no. I mean, I'm sorry. Those are good, and I support people doing that. But I mean, are there any famous conservatives that are debating anybody anywhere, or is it all? Is it just TikTok stuff happening, like randos?
Paying more because of these tariffs.
The president is doing everything he can, and this entire administration is doing.
I saw a piece go on Tim Pool. I feel like Tim was a little bit more gentle, and it was more of a specific issue. Tim got annihilated on that, though. It wasn't even close. Tim got obliterated. Are there any other conservative figures doing it?
Everything we can to bring down the cost of living in this country. An inflation mess that was fueled by the previous administration's reckless spending, overburdensome regulations that this administration is focused on slashing every single day. I just read you a statistic just from the Environmental Protective Agency alone.
Charlie was on campus. Famous people debating famous people. I'm sorry, not like conservatives doing the student bashing. I want to see like a Sam Cedar or David Pacman. Are these people getting debates with anybody? Are there any big conservatives being held to task? Not just random fans or people debating students. Or maybe nobody has ever done this, and it was literally just me and Sam sometimes. I don't know. And because conservatives are always ducking these types of conversations.
Saving taxpayers money that's ultimately going to drive down.
Yeah, somebody said, what counts as famous? I feel like no actual famous conservatives have been doing debates since 2020. Yeah, you might be right now.
Inflation, and we're unleashing the might of our energy industry, which will bring down prices as well. To the heart of your question, because this is
Mehdi and Crenshaw, is that the one we watched that, didn't we? That was kind of embarrassing but I don't remember that lasting too long. Oh, I guess we just have to check fucking Piers Morgan is our only source for people debating now.
It's very important to the American people. You should try.
Regardless if Gary's economics is a scammer, do you disagree with his talking point about wealth being redistributed from the middle class to the billionaires is our time's biggest issue? Wealth is not necessarily being redistributed from the middle class to the billionaires. I think that's a stupid way of looking at it. I think the problem is that billionaires, people have a zero-sum game of economics where if one side is winning, it must mean they're taking from somebody else or they're stealing from somebody else. That's not necessarily true. The problem is billionaires can just grow their businesses and then can amass so much power, so much capital that it has a lot of weird effects on society and arguably on politics and everything else. This is a problem, but it's not just because they're stealing money from the middle class through a limited amount of assets available for purchase, like Gary says. This is the most retarded take ever. Yeah, it's just not, yeah. Like, wealth can grow in one party without necessarily taking from another party.
To the heart of your question, because this is very important to the American people, you should trust what this president did for you in his first term. He effectively utilized tariffs while driving down inflation. It was a
That didn't happen.
record low 1.4% when he left office, and he's focused on getting back to that.
When he left office? You mean when no one could buy anything because the world was shut down? What the fuck?
It's unfortunate the previous administration left us in this mess. Sure.
Representative Anna Paulina Luna left the Freedom Caucus over their lack of support for her bill that would allow new parents to proxy vote around 12 weeks around the birth of their baby. Does the president support that bill?
I'm not sure. I haven't actually talked to the...
Wait, what?
For their lack of support for her bill that would allow Anna Paulina Luna left the Freedom Caucus over their lack of support for her bill that would allow new parents to proxy vote around 12 weeks around the birth of their baby. Does the president support that bill?
Proxy vote around the birth of their baby? What the fuck does that mean?
I'm not sure. I haven't actually talked to the president about that bill, but I certainly can and can get a take on if he supports it or not.
Thank you. And one more. The D.C. Circuit ruled last week that the president can fire holdover Biden appointees of independent agencies. Will this ruling empower President Trump to dismiss more federal employees?
Well, the president...
Congress members will be allowed to stay in their state and vote on bills from their maternity leave. Oh, maybe.
has given the responsibility to his cabinet secretaries to hire and fire at their respective agencies, and they reserve that right. You saw the Secretary of Health and Human Services announced more layoffs today. This is all part of the administration's effort for a mass reduction in force in the federal bureaucracy here in Washington, D.C. to save American taxpayers money. As for agencies within the president's executive authority, the president retains that right, and we've seen there have been bureaucrats at some of these agencies that have been trying to act independent. They need to remember who they work for. It's the executive of the executive branch. You look at the United States Institute of Peace, for example. There was a little bit of a standoff with bureaucrats over there who didn't want to realize who they work for, and that is Donald Trump. And President Trump is focused on streamlining these agencies to save American taxpayers money, and he has every right to do that. Caroline. Sure.
Caroline?
Thanks, Caroline.
Yeah.
In Gaza, the bodies of 15 rescuers have been found in their sort of ambulances where they were apparently killed by Israeli forces. Just wondering if the White House is going to be calling on Israel to investigate that and to try and avoid similar casualties involving rescue workers in future.
Well, as for the specific situation you just mentioned, I'll talk to the president about it and our national security team. What I can tell you is what I've spoken with the president on. He very much remains committed to backing Israel, and it was only because of this president and his team's leadership that we had a temporary ceasefire in Gaza, that we were able to bring many hostages home. And the president made it very clear to Hamas, you get the hostages out, all of them, or there will be hell to pay. And Hamas is certainly witnessing what it feels like for all hell to be paid, and the president supports Israel's right to defend itself.
Progress at all on a ceasefire at the moment, as far as the president's concerned?
The president and his team continue to be engaged on this every single day. Sure. Go ahead, Tam.
So I'm just wondering, related to that, if you have an approximate date for the president's first foreign trip. I think there was a little confusion yesterday about what month he was talking about. And then will he need a ceasefire to be in place or closer, either in...
Tuned in late. Has anyone asked about the rendition to innocent people? Those people actually weren't innocent. They were MS-13 gang murderers and necrophiliacs who chopped pinkies off of little children. But don't ask us where they were convicted at, but trust me.
Gaza or in Ukraine before that takes place?
The president will be heading to Saudi Arabia in May. As for specific dates and details, we will be reading those out to you as soon as we possibly can. I know our teams are working on the details of that trip. And then again, as for a ceasefire, the president's made it clear that's what he wants to see in Russia and Ukraine, and his team continues to be engaged on it every day.
And
Kelly.
Signal, you said case closed yesterday. Do you, as that case was closed, do you have anything that you can share about what was learned, how this can be avoided in the future, any sort of findings from that investigation?
The case is closed, and the president continues to have confidence in his national security
Got
advisor.
him.
Yes, Kelly.
Yes.
Oh, Kelly.
Thanks, Caroline.
Signal gate is done. Gate closed.
So
Sorry,
the
Ed.
president has said,
Ed, I'll come to you after.
the president has
I'm
said,
glad you're so eager to ask a question.
It's Liberation Day.
Just load the stone on both sides of the belt using the inserter settings? Wait, what? There's no shot you can do that. Did you use April Fool? Kill, you're in a video game.
Yes, it is.
Caroline, the president has said foreign countries and companies will eat the cost of tariffs. In his speech on Inauguration Day, he said, quote, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens.
Right.
So then why did he have to tell the domestic automakers not to raise prices?
Well, that was a private conversation that was had. I'm not sure if that comment was made or was not made. But as for what the president said in his Inauguration Day speech, he's absolutely correct. A tariff will be a tax on these foreign nations, these foreign companies, and if they want to be absolved of that tariff, then they can come here to the United States of America to do business, bring their jobs here. Edward, go ahead.
Thank you. So Canadians have been negotiating with the Commerce Secretary over the trade, the tariffs. How many companies are mutually talking with the U.S. or countries are mutually talking with the U.S. to lower tariffs?
I don't have a specific number, but I can tell you there have been quite a few countries that have called the president and have called
give
his
us an
team
estimate,
in discussion
an
about these tariffs. But again, there's
approximation.
one country the president cares most about, and it's the United States of America, and doing what's best for the people who elected him to this office to restore their jobs, their wealth, and their prosperity. I'm looking at the clock. I have a hard out today. I have a hard out today because I'm actually heading over to the State Department with the First Lady of the United States.
Oh my God.
She will be delivering remarks at 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Please debate him, you are wrong. The economic system is a finite system. Like, it definitionally is not. What are you talking about?
At the 19th International Women of Courage Award ceremony with our great Secretary of State Marco Rubio that starts at 1. This is the 5th year Mrs. Trump is participating and standing with brave women leaders who embody American values abroad. And the First Lady in her remarks today will highlight the profound connection between the love and courage that will be shown by this year's honorees. I encourage everybody to tune in at 1 o'clock, and then we'll see you all tomorrow.
There's a setting on inserters for the side of the belt it targets, but you have to do it via circuit condition. Connect a cable to the inserter. Then you can set a condition that will always be true. I don't believe you. You're trolling the fuck out of me.
By this year's honorees, I encourage everybody to tune in at 1 o'clock, and then we'll see you all tomorrow for Liberation Day. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you. Read hand contents. Set stack size. You can't do this. You're trolling. This is literally true. What is the circuit condition? You're trolling the fuck out of me. You shouldn't even be allowed to do this. You have to use the new signals. What new signals? He's 100% trolling you? Fuck you. Ban that guy. Signal chat. Good one. Oh, good one. DOJ to seek death penalty for Luigi Mangione. Somebody asked if this was okay or if they can do this. I think that it can be a federal case because it's murder. Theoretically. I don't know how you decide who gets the original jurisdiction or whatever happened in New York State. I'm not sure. But Yeah, but they probably should seek the death penalty. I mean, it's like literally a fucking terrorist assassination. Like, it's not good.
Hello. Thank you
What is
so
this?
much for joining me today.
Hi.
How are you doing? So I saw this lady's video pop up, this kind lady. I don't know her, but I'm sure she's kind. She's very popular. I've never heard of her. But she's German. She has this video, what Americans don't understand about Europe. And as you can see in the thumbnail, it says, are Americans stupid?
No. Why do you laugh at
Which,
that?
I mean...
Fuck this guy.
Historically, I'd be like, okay, all right, Americans are, yeah, I get it. You know, we take a lot of crap. Are Americans stupid? I get it. But like right now, it's like, okay, I can see how that is a question.
Whatever. Maybe.
I understand. You know, I can understand. So I want to react to this video. Typically, I wait an entire year before reacting to people's video. But of course, this one, I have a feeling this one's very topical. So I can't wait a year. So I'm doing it now. Go check out Sabine Hassenfelder's channel. She's very popular. It's very interesting. I don't think I've seen any of her videos before. But yeah, and I see she has a Ground News link. Go check that out for 40% off. You know, that's cool. That's a...
How do we feel about Sabine?
It's a cool website, I think.
Do we like her or do we not like her?
Anyway. Let's do it.
I've noticed an increasingly negative attitude.
Okay, she's German.
Hey, Destiny, can you watch the Jon Stewart talks to Oren cast from last night? Sure. Thoughts on Booker's filibuster? He just passed 20 hours. Go for him, I guess. I don't know what he's filibustering for, but good job. 20 hours. Jon Stewart, Oren cast. I don't know why the fuck I was like this. Okay, like, I agree that the consumerist obsession with just having cheap stuff or cheap iPhones or whatever, that's not a substitute for culture or other things that matter in a country. However, I feel like people take for granted the things that they have access to. People right now might say like, oh, I'm okay paying higher prices for this as long as it's more American jobs, or we've got, you know, monoculture, or we've got whatever America, I don't know, whatever bullshit. Like people will be okay with it. However, I feel like as soon as shit starts to get more expensive and people can't afford certain things, I feel like we're going to very quickly switch back to like, wait a second, we can have culture no matter what. Like, why the fuck is my shit so expensive now? Why can't I afford any of this shit? Or why is there a new phone every 3 years instead of every 1 year? What, like, I don't know. I just feel so stupid.
Do we need one for cars? Do we need one for airplanes?
Yeah, that's how tariffs work. They're big decisions. Yes, you do have to think about each of these. It shouldn't just be that the flip side, this is a conservative too, right? God, I hate conservatives. Don't ever fall for the originalist or constitutional or whatever bullshit. When conservatives describe themselves like this, they're always lying. Every single time. That's always a fucking lie, okay? Conservatives do not care about any legal shit or interpretation of law. They're always lying to you on this shit, okay?
On, you know, that's both cumbersome.
Because the president himself should not be able to unilaterally do economic policy. He can't. It's not allowed. He just kind of can as a byproduct of weird national emergencies powers. But it was never supposed to be that the president unilaterally can do economic policy.
And something that's very difficult to do well politically.
And it's cringe.
Whereas one of
or Germany to do. I mean, for Japan, like we were, right, keeping them from forming closer alliances with people like China, although now Japan, China, and South Korea have announced that they're going to be announcing multilateral trade talks again, or trilateral trade talks with the three of them, right? So ideally, we have like preferential access to those markets. We have military bases in all of these places. I'm pretty sure we have military bases in South Korea. I know we do in Okinawa and Japan, which gives us good strategic information and positioning around China and the Southeast Asian region. For Germany and the rest of Europe, I mean, we've got access to EU markets. We can do things like go blow up Houthis in Yemen if we want to sail our destroyers over there, if trade is being disrupted. I mean, I think, and there's a hidden guarantee here that we never think about. And the hidden guarantee is that we guarantee that the Europeans never attack us, not necessarily just militarily, but like economically, that we're not going to get sanctioned or tariffed by the European Union common market or anything like that. Like that's not even in your mind. That can't possibly happen because we're so close to each other, right? But who knows? On 9/11, when we went to do, when we went to go to invade Iraq and we did an Article 5 trigger, every NATO country stepped up and they helped us and they supported us with that. For Five Eyes, you've got these huge cooperations when it comes to sharing intelligence. Now that doesn't include any Southeast Asian countries. I think. Does Australia count as Southeast Asia? But so I mean, like we get things from all of these partnerships. Is Australia part of Southeast Asia? No, Australia is not considered part of Southeast Asia. Damn. Indonesia and stuff is though, right? Where does Southeast Asia end and Australia begin? This is a question every liberal should have a solid answer for. The answer should be how it benefits America directly. The new right/center don't care about foreign wars. They don't care about military shit like that. They don't care about peace in the East. Well, then, but the only problem is then you can say hypothetically, okay, well, what'll happen if these countries are potentially adversarial to us? But it's hard to even, like, you could give examples, but nobody's going to even understand what that means, or like nobody's going to care. Like, what, they would never do that. Well, of course they wouldn't do that, but that's because they've never had a reason to be adversarial towards us. It's like saying what would happen, like, it's like asking like wealthy people, what would happen if you removed every single police officer from society? They'd say, oh, well, capital interests wouldn't be defended as well. It'd be better for all of us. Like, well, you have no idea what the fuck society would look like if you took, what have we gotten from being so friendly with Europe, right? Well, what did we have before we were super friendly with Europe? We had World War I, we had World War II, you know, there was constant, like, I mean, what, it's just so short-sighted. Fuck! It's so stupid.
I have a book at home.
Like, look at the United States economy. I'm sorry, but there's just so many. Look at the United States economy and the influence we've had over the world. The United States won the Cold War, right? We did that after being cool with Europe. What if we wouldn't have been cool with any of Europe? And what if the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact would have extended over all of continental Europe and the Bungerland, right? Maybe we wouldn't have won the Cold War. Maybe South America would be owned by some, would be part of the fucking Warsaw Pact or whatever the fuck else. Or it's not even, you know what, I like 5% agree with him. The issue is not Germans. The issue is that Europe to America is one country, but in Europe, it's a ton of different countries, a ton of different cultures, and a ton of different very proud histories. And the idea that absent some big bully like America kind of telling everybody like, hey, we're going to get along and we're going to do this shit now, okay? Stop fighting each other. We're going to go to Iraq and blow up some Arabs, okay? Come on, let's go. Absent America, the idea that Europe would just be some super cooperative buddy-buddy group where everybody would get along and nobody would have any issues with each other, and people like Germany or Sweden wouldn't feel any resentment for, you know, taking on a brunt of like a refugee crisis, or that they could very easily resolve disputes inside the EU when countries like Greece have huge economic problems in terms of like application to the EU and things that have happened, or the fact that countries wouldn't start to get super ass-pained about how the other countries are acting when like the European Union Central Bank decides on euro trading or on policies related to the euro that have different impacts on different, like all of these things in some regard are held in check by the fact that the US is kind of like the leader guy who kind of tells everybody like, hey, get along and what are we going to do? Absent the United States, like the idea that Europe wouldn't, I don't want to say that it would descend into chaos, even though that's what it was, okay, prior to World War II, okay? Yeah, it's just, ugh.
That like, oh, the Germans will just become Nazis again. Like, that's a weird racist critique of Germans. I don't see any reason to...
Like, Germany was... My European history sucks, okay? But even I know that, like, Germany was not the only country in Europe that had grand designs for all, like, European-wide conquest. It's not like Europe was peaceful for 2,000 years, and then one day the Germany nation attacked, right?
Believe that...
Wait, who did we... I feel like I was listening to some guy the other day. Was it an Alex Friedman podcast or something? Where it's like when people... Oh, maybe... Was it Douglas Murray? Like when people build up militaries and armies, like they tend to want to use them. It's kind of weird to just build up a giant military and to just kind of sit on it the whole time and do nothing, you know?
To be backed by general history. When people rearm, they tend to do it and use it. But I think the idea that Europe needs to, like, I guess what I'm saying is this is a fine adjustment that's being made with a sledgehammer, if that makes sense.
I think that's a very fair point. I think where we started on...
You're implying that peace in Western Europe is dependent on the friendship with the U.S. nowadays. Like, can it be true that it was the right thing to do to establish a strong military presence in Europe after World War II, and to withdraw that presence at some point in the future when it's no longer needed? I think there's something to be said for a foreign person having, like, that's just so large, having that much influence over you. I think it's just a good setup to kind of like keep the peace. I've quoted before on stream, and again, I don't know how true these stories are, okay? But that one Mordecai Kadar doctor guy would tell me that in older Muslim societies or tribes, Muslim Arab, I guess I should say, that like one of the things that family members would do, because so much is like based on kind of like families running things and these like different tribes of families running things, that one of the things you would do is if you have you and like 4 brothers or 4 cousins who are in charge of some system, rather than trying to decide yourself how to delineate responsibility from one person to the next, because that can lead to so many problems related to favoritism or whatever else, you find an unrelated third party who has an equidistant familial relationship to everybody. So either they're like a 5th cousin to everybody or they're not related at all. And that person can then make harder decisions that an individual in the family can't make because it just feels so much different, right? If you delegate the responsibility to an unrelated third party, it's just easier for them to do it. That's a more specific example, I guess, for Middle Eastern people, or for ancient Middle Eastern peoples, or maybe to some extent, maybe some modern. But I feel like there's a similar thing at play right now. If the United States dictates something to Europe in terms of going to Iraq or is suggesting some kind of like banking or foreign policy direction, I think that it's a lot easier for all Europeans to get on board with that, or even if it's begrudgingly, versus it coming from like Germany or France. I think that's a much more difficult proposition to accept for Europeans. But holy shit, guys, hold on. Dan Clancy, the CEO, is banned from Twitch? Holy shit, that's fucking crazy. What? How did he's the CEO. There's no way that he could get banned from Twitch. That's fucking crazy, guys. Oh my God, that's so fucking hilarious. That's so epic. Oh my God, I can't believe they got him. Wait, oh no. Oh my God, it's April 1st. Oh, I think I got epically April Fool. Oh. Maybe. But there's a hidden thing that's happening here as well that needs to be acknowledged. And the hidden thing is, when you're doing a thing and the process by which you're doing the thing appears to be very bad, then it feels like the principles that you're espousing while you're doing the thing might not necessarily be honestly stated, right? If I say, my goal is to clean all the crime out of New York City, and I do it by creating robo-dogs that instantly kill every single black person they see. And it's like, hold up. And it's like, hey, well, crime is falling in some areas, right? It's like, okay, sure. So what's the problem? Well, I don't know what you're trying to do here. It seems like this is not your stated goal. Somebody's just killing black people. Whoa. Well, we agree with the principle of reducing crime, right? It's like, sure. Okay, well, maybe we're like being a little bit too heavy-handed or a little bit sloppy, but like the crime is coming down a bit. And we're doing a good job at doing that. And maybe we can talk about, the process. But it's important to keep in mind that the process and principle are different. It's like, okay, hold on. Doge was supposed to look for government waste and abuse. What does shutting down USAID have to do with waste, fraud, and abuse? That has nothing to do with waste, fraud, and abuse. In fact, nothing that Doge has done so far has had to do with waste, fraud, and abuse. So you can't keep retreating to this bullshit-ass argument of, well, the principle of what they're doing, I think, is probably good. No, it's not. The actions have betrayed any principle alignment with this concept of going after waste, fraud, and abuse. It's just ideological. It's just a thing that was created to defund things in the government that conservatives don't like. That's it.
And not throw them out if just...
anymore, little bro. You can't keep anybody out if you're going to give up all of the soft power that you've had for whatever delusional fantasies of grandeur you've conjured up here about how you can rule the world, like through tariffs.
To your point, China's just been doing what's best for China.
No, China has been building relationships throughout all of Asia, throughout all of Africa. They're trying to make diplomatic headways into Europe now. I think there was statements about them wanting to do something related to Ukraine and Russia. They've definitely made diplomatic headway into the Middle East through actors like Qatar. So, I mean, in Iran, to some extent.
But that is not consistent with what the U.S. and a U.S.-led alliance would want. And so if you want to get from where we are today to that kind of system, you are asking things of allies that they haven't been asked before.
Then ask.
And so the question is,
Why not try
how do you make
asking?
that a credible ask? Because I think it's fair. I don't think that those are
like whatever you're like. I wish people would be better at identifying this. Listen, whatever you're talking about sounds great. It has nothing to do with what the conversation topic is about. Okay, wanting to ask allies to step up in different ways or to take more responsibility in certain ways is fine. That's a fine conversation to have. It might even be a good thing to talk about going forward, but that has nothing to do with what's going on with this administration today. So I don't know where this conversation topic is coming from or why you think it's irrelevant to anything being discussed right now. Of trickle-down economics? Why are people asking? Maybe, I guess conservatives haven't used this term in a long time. It's this broad idea that if you allow businesses to keep more of their money, that somehow they'll pay their employees more. So like the wealth trickles down from the wealthiest to employees. I don't know. It's just like trickle down. As long as The issue though is that employment is always a cost of doing business. You're never ever just giving more money to labor. Because why would you? It's just a cost of doing business. The only way to do it is if there's a competitive labor market or if you're going to hire new employees, it's because you're expanding because you've got a larger customer base or whatever. You're either responding to demand or you're responding to pressure of the labor market. But the idea that just because a business has more money, it's magically going to start paying its employees more doesn't make any sense. Why would you ever do that? It doesn't make any sense. Labor is a cost of doing business. Isn't the argument of corporate taxes that you create them in a way that incentivizes the company to reinvest into itself as a way to offset that? I mean, corporations should be reinvesting into themselves anyway, no? Do you need corporate tax? I guess you could use them a little bit to incentivize that, but I mean, ideally they're already doing that, no?
There's still time for him to change his mind tomorrow. There's still time for him to change his mind, but we are told he has settled on one of two possibilities, either a 20% flat tariff or adjustable tariffs where we are, the United States is implementing something on another country based on what their tariff is on us. Despite tomorrow, there's still time for him to change his mind, but we are told he is...
Doesn't sound like the president is using these as national emergency power. It sounds like he's just trying to do economic policy unilaterally. Really makes you think. The actual argument for tax cuts is increased economic growth, meaning cheaper, better products, and a larger base for tax revenue. It's not that dog shit strawman corpos give money away. No, bullshit. No, that's a bullshit argument. It is the bullshit argument. It's not your argument. Because when you say tax cuts for economic growth, the implication there has to do with the Laffer curve or whatever, right? The idea that there's going to be some optimal amount of taxation. If your taxation was 99% and you lowered your taxation to 95%, your economy would be better and you'd probably make more tax revenue. But conservatives never, ever, ever argue for an optimal rate of taxation. They just say the taxes need to be zero, which is literally what Trump is finally doing. I'm so glad I can ignore all the retarded shit you conservative lying fucking ghouls have been saying forever. No, we believe it, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. Trump has said he wants zero taxes, zero income taxes, it'll all be paid with tariffs. The idea is to just have zero taxes and destroy the government and then see what the fuck is left afterwards. So no, bullshit. There is an optimal rate of taxation, I agree, where you can lower taxes and increase the overall size of your economy, and as a result of the additional economic activity, you actually make more in taxes. And there's a world where you have taxes that are too low, but the conservatives will never agree to the other side of that argument. You can lower taxes too much, and you actually damage your ability to collect revenue, and you have to shut down or shutter government programs or whatever. So if you want to talk about both sides of it, that is true, but conservatives never talk about the second side of that.
Settled on one of two possibilities. Either